Every piece of music you love, whether it's a huge movie score or a song you have on repeat, actually depends on two different kinds of people.
That's right.
You have the person who dreams it all up the inventor.
And then you have the person who actually makes the sound, the one who brings it to life.
Today, we're going to unpack that relationship between the composer and the performer.
And a great way to think about it is like building a house. The composer is the architect. They draw up the blueprints, they figure out the whole design.
And the performer?
The performer is the construction crew. They take those silent plans and, through a lot of skill and physical work, they build the actual thing you can experience.
Okay, so let's start there with the architect, the composer. Their job is basically to invent music from nothing.
Exactly. From an idea in their head. They decide on all the notes, the rhythms, and how different instruments should fit together.
Sounds kind of magical.
It feels like it, but it's built on a lot of knowledge. Composers have to understand something called music theory.
Which is like the grammar of music, right?
It's the set of rules that helps make sure the music sounds good, that it makes sense to our ears. Every famous piece started as just an idea, but theory helped shape it.
And their tools for shaping it have changed a lot.
Oh, massively. I mean, historically, it was all ink and paper.
Right.
But today, most composers work inside a computer using something called a DW, a digital audio workstation.
And what exactly does a DAW do?
It's like having a whole recording studio on your laptop. They often use a MIDI keyboard to get their ideas in.
Okay, so I've heard of MIDI. Does the keyboard itself make sound?
No, and that's the key thing to get. MIDI is just data. It's a language. It sends a signal to the computer that says, play this note for this long. The computer software then creates the sound.
So one person can write a piece for a whole orchestra and actually hear what it sounds like all by themselves.
Instantly. It's an unbelievable advantage. They can experiment with a 50-piece orchestra without hiring a single musician.
So after they've built the song in the computer, how do they get it to the actual human musicians?
That's the next step. They use notation software.
Right.
It takes all their work from the DAW and prints it out as professional, easy-to-read sheet music.
Which saves a ton of time, I imagine.
Oh, you have no idea. Imagine trying to correct a mistake by hand on 40 different violin parts. Now it's just a click of a button.
Okay, so the architect has finished the blueprint, the sheet music is printed, but it's still just silent paper.
Exactly. Now we need the athlete, the performer, to turn it into sound. They're the bridge between the page and the audience.
And this is where the athlete part of the analogy really makes sense, doesn't it? It's incredibly physical.
It's profoundly physical. They are taking a written code and, in real time, turning it into sound waves. That takes an incredible amount of coordination and mental focus at the same time.
Can you give us an example?
Well, think of a pianist. Their hands might be moving independently, playing complex patterns, while their feet are working the pedals, and their eyes are reading music pages ahead of what they're playing.
All while trying to make it sound emotional and not just mechanical.
And that mental focus is just as intense. Timing is everything. If you're in a band or an orchestra, you have to be perfectly in sync with everyone else.
You can't just pause if you get lost.
There's no pause button.
Yeah.
It's live. And that requires discipline. Hours and hours of practice every single day.
Just repeating the same difficult passages over and over again.
Yes. They build muscle memory. Singers have to control their breathing. Violinists worry about calluses on their fingers. Their instrument, whether it's a guitar or their own voice, has to be maintained like a high-performance machine.
So that blueprint they're all reading from, the sheet music, is basically the universal language that connects them.
It is. It's the main way the composer communicates their ideas. It's full of symbols.
And it's more than just which notes to play, right?
Much more. It also has instructions for dynamics, which means how loud or soft to play. It tells you the speed, the mood.
So a composer tries to control as much as possible from the page.
They do. And there are standard symbols everyone understands. The clef at the beginning tells you how high or low the notes are. The time signature organizes the rhythm. Without that shared language, a huge symphony would be impossible.
It ensures a musician in New York can play a piece exactly how a composer in London imagined it.
Without ever having to speak to them, yes. That's why it's so powerful. It lets music survive for hundreds of years.
Even now, with digital recordings everywhere.
Even now. Printed scores are still the most reliable way to preserve and study a piece of music, the original DNA of the song.
But the separation, the architect and the athlete, wasn't always so clear-cut.
Not at all. If you go back a few hundred years to someone like Mozart or Beethoven, they were usually both.
The composer and the star performer.
Absolutely. They'd write a piano concerto specifically to show off their own skills on the piano. They were the whole package.
So what changed? Why did the roles split?
Well, the music just got bigger and more complicated. Think about these giant hour-long symphonies. It's too much for one person to compose for 100 instruments and have the physical skill to lead the performance.
So people started to specialize.
Exactly. The composer focused on writing, and a new role, the conductor, emerged to lead the performers. Now, it's pretty common for a composer to never even meet the orchestra that plays their piece.
But that's not always the case. There's still a lot of teamwork involved in modern music.
Oh, for sure. It's a collaboration. A smart composer will show their music to a performer and ask, hey, is this part even possible to play on a trumpet at this speed?
And the performer can give feedback.
Right. They might say, well, it's possible, but it would sound better if you wrote it like this because of how the instrument works.
Yeah.
That conversation is super important.
And in a recording studio, you have a producer whose job is kind of to manage that whole process.
The producer is like the director of the film. They guide everyone to get the best possible final recording.
So this brings up a really interesting idea: interpretation.
Yes. This is where the performer gets to add their own unique touch.
But hold on. If the composer writes down all the notes, the speed, the volume, what's left for the performer to do besides just follow the instructions?
That's the amazing part. The instructions are never 100% complete. The composer might write forte, which means loud, but they don't say exactly how loud.
Ah, so there's some gaps to fill in.
Lots of them. A performer can play with the timing a little bit, slowing down or speeding up for emotional effect. It's called rubato. They get to decide the emotional color.
So two different pianists could play the same exact piece of sheet music.
It could sound completely different. One might make it sound angry and aggressive. Another might play the same notes and make it sound thoughtful and sad.
So that's the performer's art, respecting the blueprint, but also making it their own.
That is the magic right there, that balance.
And sometimes the roles just completely merge into one.
Right. And that's improvisation.
So that's when a musician is just making it up as they go along.
In a way, yes. It's really common in jazz and blues. The performer becomes the composer in that very moment. They're creating new music on the spot.
But it's not just random notes, is it?
Not at all. That spontaneity is built on, years and years of practice. To improvise well, you need to have this huge mental library of scales and chords.
And you have to be listening really carefully to the other musicians.
You have to be totally in the moment, listening and reacting. It blends that act of creation and the act of performance into one really exciting thing.
So outside of the art, there's a business side to all this that makes sure people get paid.
Copyright law.
Which is so important. Copyright is what protects the work of both the composer and the performer.
How does that work? Who owns what?
Generally, the composer owns the copyright to the song itself, the melody and the lyrics, the blueprint.
Okay.
So when that song is played on the radio or streamed, the composer gets paid a royalty.
But what about the specific recording of the song? Like Taylor Swift's version versus a cover version. That's the other side of it. The specific sound recording is protected by a separate copyright, often called the master recording copyright. That money goes to the performer and the record label.
So there are two different kinds of ownership for every song you hear.
And that system is designed, or at least it tries, to make sure both the creator of the idea and the person who delivered the performance get rewarded for their work.
So if any of you listening are thinking about a career in music, your education would look really different depending on which path you choose.
Very different. Someone who wants to be a composer will study things like orchestration, which is the art of writing for all the different instruments. They study advanced harmony, counterpoint. It's very academic.
And the performer's path.
It's all about practice. Hours a day, every day, just on their instrument. Their goal is to achieve total technical mastery.
But they both need some of the same basic skills, I assume.
Oh, yeah. They both need great ear training to understand what they're hearing and a solid knowledge of music history. But in the end, it really comes down to personality.
So what kind of person becomes a composer?
Someone who loves solving puzzles, who likes working alone, building these huge, complex things just from their imagination.
And the performer.
That's someone who craves the energy of the stage, the applause, the connection with a live audience. They love the physical challenge of it.
Of course, you can be both.
You can, and many people are.
Yeah.
But the key thing to remember is that you really can't have music without both. You need the person with the idea, and you need the person who can turn that idea into sound.
So we've covered the creator who makes the map, the the player who takes the journey, and the sheet music that connects them both.
It's that partnership that makes everything you hear possible.
An architect and an athlete working together.
Good luck with your studies.